Okay, why does that make you mad?
I was like, you know, the first time, you know, women had gone together for a while. Yeah, to protest something. Legitimate.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But they spend their time, you know, focusing on Trump, who we all obviously already know is bad, instead of focusing on, you know, other issues with women's rights.
Huh.
So it just seemed like a big waste in my opinion. So it doesn't, for me at least, it doesn't help, you know, the idea of the women's rights.
Yeah.
You know, if they had gone out and protest, you know, wage, you know, I haven't done research into the wage thing, but I've heard from multiple sources where it's, you know, it is an issue, and some people say it isn't an issue, kind of thing. So it really, it's, I don't know personally, but it's like, if they had protested something like that instead, you know, pushing, not like their ideas, but pushing home about, you know, certain things that need to be changed.
Yeah.
In a good way, instead of, you know, just sitting there protesting Trump, you know.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, regardless of who was elected, we know it's going to be bad one way or the other.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't going to have a protest like this. You know, there's a legitimate concern that, you know, Trump's obviously not as nice to women as, you know, he should or can be.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a concern to point out, but, you know, anybody can point that out. I mean, this whole thing with, is it Trump in the media right now? You know, how he's quote-unquote censoring it? I've heard from multiple people, like, some people say, oh, you know, it's like a complete blackout. They're trying to, like, shut down freedom of speech right now, you know? While, yeah, you probably have to go back up. Well, I don't think even Trump's that stupid. I've heard from some people say, you know, each presidency has had something to do with blacking out media for a bit while they get things sorted.
Yeah.
Which seems to be the case here, and just because it's Trump, he's getting a lot of shit. Now, do I know that personally, and if that's true or not? No, not exactly. I would have to do more research, you know. Spending a lot of time recently trying to figure out research stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing a lot of research into stuff like net neutrality and things like that, just because it affects me directly. So, I mean, there's like a lot of things, just a lot of things that need to be worked out.
Yeah, I get you.
So the whole Women's March itself just seemed like a large waste.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I make the off-color joke here and there, but like, you know.
So you disagree with it for a reason that's not just because you actually have a good reason.
Yeah,
I agree. It was mainly because it seemed like they weren't focusing on the bigger issues. Like, anyone could have gone out and been like, yeah, Trump's a bad guy.
That guy, we already all know.
Yeah, we already know, yeah.
You know, even like people who voted for him, he was like, yeah, he's kind of a douche.
Yeah.
But, you know, he gets things done. That's like one of the main things that people were talking about. You know, he gets things done, he tells it as it is, kind of thing. You know, now, do I agree with that? You know, it depends on the situation, what he's saying. As it should for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
You shouldn't automatically assume everything he says is retarded, you know? A lot of things he said is retarded, but, you know, just because they say a few dumb things doesn't mean that they're the most retarded person on earth.
Yeah.
Especially when that person's, you know, flying our country. So, I mean, it's like, everybody knows that he was not very kosher and nice with his election campaign. Now that he's in power, people are giving him tons of shit for certain things.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not you believe him as a president or not, you kind of need to accept it. And even if you don't accept it, that's understandable. But the thing is, you can't sit and bitch and moan and whine. You know, the typical thing is like, if you didn't vote for this president, you better have voted in the first place, otherwise you can't complain, right?
Yeah.
You know, while that's held some truth, you need to go that way. Remember? You have to go talk to the guy in the back alley.
Yeah.
Where was I? I was talking about. I have to slow down there.
Yeah. I'm just gonna start the episode now. It'll be a longer one. Do you want me to start it anytime? Like,
I don't care when you start it.
Okay.
But yeah, as I was saying, the gist of it is, you know, if you want to change the political process, like, as Bernie Sanders was saying after, Trump won the election and he was getting interviewed by people because everybody was like, let's interview Bernie because obviously Hillary wasn't going to be in the mood to be interviewed, right? She just lost. So they were interviewing Bernie, and he spent a lot of time basically saying what, like, some people like John Oliver, the guy who runs The Daily Show, Stephen Colbert, and a few other people were saying, which is basically, whether or not you agree with him, obviously they're a little bit biased in their own personal sense. Whether or not you agree with Matt, he is in power. And the thing is, you shouldn't be just sitting bitching and moaning about it.
You should actually go out and do
something.
Do something.
One of the ways, like for example, it's called a national convention, where all the states get together and they can form an amendment from that.
Yeah.
Instead of passing it through Congress. I'm not exactly clean on my fucking U.S. governmental skills right now, because I haven't really been paying attention for that long recently. But the gist of it is, the whole, regardless of, it's a big government, there's a lot that goes on there, it is still a government like this.
Yeah.
So, you still have a say. It's still a technical democracy republic.
Yeah.
You do have a say. One person voting for, one person instead of the two main parties. It's a little bit skeptical. There's always going to be two parties, so your vote changes one or the other things. So, the main thing that really needs to be focused on is, what can we do? It's obvious, as the Women's March pointed out, it's obvious that people want to get together and do something about this. Not exactly change the presidency. I mean, the simple that I understand the Women's March was fully about was expressing their concerns about, how Trump treated women, right?
Yeah.
Obviously it was not good.
Yeah.
But there's, no offense, but bigger concerns. Like, there's always bigger concerns. Like, I would say the biggest concern, in American, just actually in general right now, is education. And I'm not talking like, pre through 12.
Yeah.
That's pretty well covered, I won't lie. I got pretty lucky. I went to private schools and I went to a really good public school.
Yeah.
But I've talked to a lot of people who've obviously come from Warsaw states, and, I hear this and I'm like, it can be improved, but at least you have it.
Yeah.
The major thing that I'm talking about is actually education on, like, stuff like arguments, critical thinking, and things like this, which is covered most of the time in college.
Yeah.
That's one of the major things that's actually going on in one of my English classes right now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting to look and talk about it, because it's like, you hear all about these interesting things, and you're like, okay, so this is what's going on, this is what's happening. You hear things like, here's an example of what I'm trying to talk about. It just occurred to me. I was sitting in my history class, and we were talking about right after the Civil War, just right after Reconstruction.
Yeah.
And during that time, obviously, African Americans did not have nearly as many rights as they should have. Yeah. And due to that and a few other things, we had the pay styles, which was, white males, white females, and then all other race male, and then all other race female. And that's how the pay went, right?
Yeah.
White male obviously earned more than the rest of them. And so it was obviously race and gender bias completely there. And so when he mentioned that, obviously talking in a historical sense, obviously one of the people in my class, obviously female, piped up and went like, and said it's still that way, obviously referring to gender differences. And half of me wanted to get up and look her in the face and be like, did you do the math? Have you researched this at all? Have you looked into this? Have you, done all these important information and details that need to be, done to come to that kind of conclusion? How did you come to this conclusion? Why, all these questions. And I guarantee you this person would not have been able to answer them.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's called bandwagoning. I've talked to a lot of people about this recently, and it's what happens on social media constantly. That's what happens why there are mobs and things like that. It's because everybody bandwagons because they all want some kind of approval. Everybody's circle jerking each other. It's kind of a weird way of putting it, but it's what happens a lot online. So it's it's annoying to watch people all bandwagon, and because so many people bandwagon, it becomes very black and white. And so due to that, people stop asking questions. They stop thinking. Because, if you that, you say women are paid less than men.
Yeah.
You are going to get a response, positive and negative.
Yeah.
More positive than negative right now. But, in all honesty, you have to, you have to buy certain things in a certain order, remember?
I don't remember.
Go talk to the dude back in the alley.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because of the bandwagoning, people lose sight of, how to be a thinker, how to, look, how to be an actual citizen. One thing that ties into this is, if you've ever read it, Orwell's, I think, Brave New World? No. It's Orwell's, let me search this up. Sure, some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orwell versus Huxley. Orwell, what is it? Orwell, 1984.
Yeah.
And Huxley's Brave New World? Yeah, Huxley's Brave New World. And if you've ever read these, basically, Orwell's book covers that in U.S. society, I mean, not U.S., sorry, just in society and culture in general, he feared that governments would grow to start oppressing the people, by, banning books, burning books, things like this, typical dictatorship government. And, that's obviously rise for concern. Yeah. But at a recent convention, I forget where it was, there was like a book fair in Germany. This man started talking about, everybody's like, oh, good, we didn't reach Orwell's, vision for the future. And this guy was like, well, yeah, while we're patting ourselves on our back because of this, we aren't reading what the true problem is, which was Huxley's Brave New World. So if you've actually ever read Huxley's Brave New World, it's a very similar concept about captivity from our government. But the scary part is, it's not so much as we'll be captured by our government. It will be that we are captured to our own entertainment. Yeah. So, how you like see all these people on their phone not communicating, just sucked into their phones and technology. I'm guilty of this too. They're involved in entertainment. And so they're involved to the point where they're no longer what's the best word for this? They're no longer conscious about what they're doing. A lot of people will disagree with me. A lot of people say, nah, I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. But in all reality, it's not the case, because I can be like, I have full control of what's going on, but as Mr. Snowden has shown to us, the NSA and other people are watching, is that the problem? That's a different conversation. But the idea is we are being controlled, not necessarily, drastically right now. We are on the track, I guess is a better way to put it, to have the possibility to be controlled by technology. Through the entertainment value. We're going to amuse ourselves to death. As an author that I read stated, we'll amuse ourselves to death. Yeah. Because we will no longer, as what is it, Ready Player One, that book,
Yeah.
where everybody no longer lives in the regular world because it's so full of shit.
Yeah.
They're all living in the digital world.
Mhm.
And it's pretty interesting to look at because you have all this stuff going on, and it's the path we're quote-unquote headed down at the moment because we have so many people just blindly following people.
Yeah.
And, I know I started this little tangent / rant off with, the women's march that happened for Trump, but it all kind of falls together to the point where you're like, hey, because of all this bandwagoning, all these people are, short-sighting themselves and tunnel visioning. Tunnel vision? And due to that, a lot of people are no longer paying attention to what's going on.
Uh-huh.
And just kind of barrels down from there.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not very good at explaining it. There's a lot of interesting papers and books you can guys go read if you're interested in that at all. Pretty sure half of you didn't give a fuck about what I said. But the idea of it is that we're headed to a point where Huxley's Brave New World might be a thing because we spend so much time on social media, circle jerking each other, being like, I say one thing and so everybody else agrees with me, so I get instant satisfaction. And everybody's going to stop going to school because, well, I can tell you for a fact, school does not provide instant satisfaction at all. Unless you are doing like a quiz that you get back immediately. And even then, you have to be content with that instead of, long-term education goals.
Uh-huh.
So it's just something to keep in mind. That we live in a time and place nowadays where we need to be careful of how much games we play. I joke about the fact that, I sit sometimes for 48 hours straight and just play video games with some friends and then get up and go do work and school and, whatever needs to be done. But during those 48 hours, I'm either completely ignoring everything or I'm trying to spend time researching things.
Yeah.
Because I've personally made it a goal to, read something, listen to a talk or something each day.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the saying, the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the keyboard nowadays. The form of words and thoughts and ideas are stronger than the ability to kill people.
Yeah.
Because thoughts, you may be able to kill somebody, you could never kill a thought. Once it's started, it will keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because of that, we're running into the issue where we have no more pen holders. We have no more keyboard holders.
Yeah.
There are no thinkers left. Obviously in this time and age right now, there are plenty that still exist, but we don't have anybody who, sits down for, a week, maybe,
Yeah.
Einstein did this, other great thinkers. They would basically just sit for a week because, they didn't have social media, they didn't have any of these entertainment things that we have because we live in a world where there's hundreds and hundreds of things to entertain us, right?
Yeah.
We sit down sometimes in front of our 500 game Steam library and we're like, wow, what to play? And you're like, well, I don't really have anything to play. You do, but you're just not in the mood to play anything.
Yeah.
And so, because of all this entertainment value, we're not short of anything. And I don't know, we're just getting closer and closer to a world where we're amusing ourselves to death because nobody thinks. If nobody thinks, it means it's easier for us to be controlled. I sound like some conspiracy theory, nut who's like, the government's gonna control us all until we die. Illuminati bullshit, But whether or not it's true, I don't know. I don't claim to actually give a shit.
Yeah.
But the problem is you have to open your eyes. It's like, it's ignorance. There's only so much ignorance you can go through because it's a similar thing with like why people think global warming doesn't exist and why people think vaccines cause autism and things like this.
Yeah.
It's pure ignorance. It's pure ignorance, and it's just painful to watch some people, like, because you say you have all these facts, you have all these states, and you have all this information, basically saying global warming is a fact and it's happening. It's true, it's happening, and there's nothing you can do against it. And you tell these people, they're like, "Nah, it's not happening." Yeah, I understand that there are arguments in some cases where it's not, where people argue that it's not exactly global warming.
Yeah.
Like, there's other aspects to it that we're not taking into account. There's some aspects where we're saying that's happening, it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a theory, but it's definitely a fact that the world is changing because we're heating it up.
Yeah.
And so, because of all this, due to blissful ignorance and bandwagoning, the population's in for a decline.
Uh-huh.
Should Trump or Hillary have been elected in the first place? No. But due to people's ignorance, being unable to, understand that there's more than just two parties.
Yeah.
There's more options than that. Because we are so limited as individuals, we cannot be in a position where we're changing the world for the better. And that's the problem I have with the United States. It's all about me, 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 and not enough about, the government. Yeah, that sounds super communist and, socialist and all that. But there's, in every single country to date, it has started off with, me, 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 I'm moving to this new state or country or something to get a better life. But then eventually it turns into, how can we make this country better? I need to stop worrying too much about me because I'm in a good place and a good footing. But due to how we run the capitalism, how we do certain few things, it creates a fight to survive kind of style.
Yeah.
Because of that, we're constantly fighting to survive, and the people who aren't fighting to survive, aka CEOs, government officials, people who are well off, right?
Yeah.
These people, they don't need to worry too much about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they can be concerned about the other rich people. And, that brings the whole Illuminati bullshit into perspective. Like, they're all collaborating together. They're probably not, in all honesty. Some might be. But it's the major thing to take away from that is that we need to be more aware of our surroundings, less bandwagoning, more thinking, more reading, and
doing more
like
research on and creating more original thought, instead of just going with the first good idea you find.
Yeah, it's why pop's popular.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And so, yeah, that brings up another topic that I won't talk about now, but it's internet anonymity and things like that.
And we can probably talk about that next time.
Next time.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed.
Hope you enjoyed, everybody.